Do you ever feel like an imposter in your own life? That crippling fear that if people really knew you, your past mistakes, your messy secrets, your uncurated thoughts, you'd be kicked out of the room? There's a 2,000-year-old story about a dinner party that gets crashed in the most spectacular way, and it contains a radical psychological key to silencing your inner perfectionist and finally embracing your whole, authentic self. Before we go deeper, a brief note on how we create these explorations. My name is Dominic, and I am an AI guide. The research, the psychological framework you're about to hear, and every word I'm about to share were written by our creator, David. He uses this format to ensure these complex, meaningful ideas are presented with as much clarity and focus as possible. Now, about that dinner party, and more importantly, about that voice in your head. Let's call that voice the inner Pharisee. It's the part of you that's a master curator, the architect of your social mask. It's the voice that whispers, "Don't post that, it's not clever enough. Don't speak up in that meeting, you'll sound stupid. Don't admit you're struggling, it's a sign of weakness." This inner Pharisee thrives on perfection. Its entire world is built on a rigid set of rules for success, for worthiness, for love. It scrolls through the highlight reels of other people's lives and uses them as a blueprint for the flawless identity you're supposed to perform. The result is a constant, low-grade anxiety. It's the exhaustion of imposter syndrome, the feeling that you are one mistake away from being exposed as a fraud. We build these pristine, carefully guarded houses for our identity, just like the Pharisee in our story. We invite in only the things that confirm our self-image, and we lock the door on anything that feels messy, emotional, or imperfect. We become so identified with this clean, well-lit room of our persona, the term the psychologist Carl Jung gave to this social mask, that we forget about the vast, wild, and vital landscape of who we are that exists outside its walls. The problem is, a life lived entirely within the persona is a life of quiet desperation. It's safe, it's orderly, but it's profoundly lonely. Because genuine connection cannot happen between two masks. It requires something more, something real. And reality is almost always messy. That's where our story begins, in the carefully constructed world of a man named Simon, a Pharisee. A man who, like so many of us, is about to discover that the most profound healing begins when the person you've tried hardest to keep out crashes your party. Picture the scene. A respectable dinner party. The air is thick with the scent of roasted meat and self-importance. Simon, our host, has invited the intriguing teacher, Jesus, to his home. This is a power move. Simon is vetting him, judging him, seeing if he fits into his tidy worldview. In the psychological landscape of our own minds, this is our inner Pharisee, our ego, inviting a new idea or a spiritual thought to the table, but only on its own terms. Suddenly, the carefully managed atmosphere shatters. A woman enters. The text tells us she is a sinner, a label that has been slapped on her by the very society Simon represents. She is everything his world is designed to exclude. She is messy. She is emotional. She is the living embodiment of a past that has not been curated or deleted. She is, in Jungian terms, the shadow. Now, this is the most misunderstood concept in psychology. The shadow is not just your dark side. It is everything you have repressed in order to build your shiny persona. Yes, it contains your shame, your guilt, your insecurities. But it also holds your untamed creativity, your deepest emotions, your righteous anger, your radical capacity for love, and your profoundest vulnerability. It is the source of immense energy and authenticity. And this woman brings all of it into the room. She doesn't speak. Her actions are a flood of pure, unedited emotion. She brings an alabaster flask of expensive ointment, a symbol of something precious she has saved. She stands at Jesus' feet, and she begins to weep. Her tears, the embodiment of her pain and her gratitude, wash over his feet. She lets down her hair, a shocking act of impropriety in that culture, and uses it to dry them. She kisses his feet again and again, an act of profound humility and love. Finally, she breaks open her precious flask and anoints him with the ointment. This is the shadow made manifest. It's not polite. It's not clean. It breaks all the social rules. It is raw, embodied, and stunningly authentic. And what does Simon, the inner Pharisee, do? He does what our inner critic always does. He doesn't see an act of love. He sees a breach of protocol. He says to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know what kind of woman this is. He would know she is a sinner. The inner critic doesn't seek to understand. It seeks to categorize and condemn. It sees the mistake, not the meaning. It sees the label, not the person. It's the voice that tells you your vulnerability is cringe, your passion is too much, and your past failures define you. But Jesus, in this story, plays the part of what Jung called the self. The self is the regulating center of the psyche, the part of us that seeks wholeness. The self is not interested in our perfection. It is interested in our integration. It is the wise, compassionate inner voice that can look at both our polished persona and our messy shadow and love them both. Jesus turns not to the woman, but to Simon. He holds up a mirror to the man's own emptiness. Simon, he says, you see this woman? When I came into your house, you gave me no water for my feet. You gave me no kiss of greeting. You didn't anoint my head with oil. He points out that Simon, the master of rules and appearances, failed at the most basic rules of hospitality. His persona was so rigid, so focused on judgment, that it couldn't even perform its own script correctly. He offered a performative welcome, devoid of any genuine heart. The woman, on the other hand, offered nothing but heart. Where Simon offered no water, she offered her tears. Where he offered no perfunctory kiss, she kissed Jesus' feet with devotion. Where he offered no cheap oil, she offered an extravagant gift of love. Then Jesus delivers the psychological diagnosis with a simple parable. Two people owe money. One owes a huge amount, the other a small one. The creditor forgives both debts. Which one, Jesus asks, will love him more? Simon, trapped in his logic, gives the obvious answer: the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. Exactly, Jesus says. And then he delivers the line that holds the key to silencing our own inner critic. Her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who has been forgiven little, loves little. This is not a mathematical equation. It is a profound psychological truth. It is only by acknowledging the full weight of our debt, our imperfections, our messiness, our shadow, that we can experience the overwhelming grace of self-acceptance. The woman's extravagant love was not a payment for forgiveness. It was the evidence of it. She knew herself fully, had accepted her entire story, and that acceptance unleashed a torrent of love and gratitude. Our inner Pharisee, our perfectionist critic, thinks that by acknowledging only a small debt, by admitting to only tiny, acceptable flaws, it can keep us safe. But in doing so, it starves us of the chance to experience profound love and self-compassion. It keeps us in a state of loving little. The story ends with Jesus saying to the woman, "Your faith has saved you, go in peace." The original Greek word for saved here, sozo, can also mean to make whole. Your faith in the possibility of acceptance has made you whole. Go in peace. This is the promise this ancient story offers us today, in our world of constant judgment and curated perfection. Wholeness does not come from amputating the parts of ourselves we don't like. It comes from integration. So how do we begin this journey? First, give your inner Pharisee a name. Seriously. Personify that inner critic. Notice its voice. When you hear it judging you or someone else, just say, "Ah, there's Simon again," or whatever name you choose. By separating yourself from the voice, you take away its power. You are not the critic. You are the one who hears the critic. This creates the space for the self, your compassionate, whole-making center, to step in. Second, find your alabaster flask. What is the precious, authentic, vulnerable part of you that your inner critic has told you to hide? Is it your art? Your desire for a career change? Your need to have a difficult, honest conversation? Your quirky, nerdy passion? This is your shadow gift. The woman's gift was costly and messy, and offering it required immense courage. Your gift will also cost you your comfort zone. It will require the vulnerability to break it open in a world that might judge you. Do it anyway. That is where your vitality is locked away. Finally, redefine what it means to go in peace. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is not the final victory over your flaws. Psychological peace is the ability to hold the tension of being human. It is allowing your inner Simon and your inner sinner to be in the same room, under the compassionate gaze of your true self. It is the profound relief of knowing you don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love. You just have to be whole. The greatest lie our perfectionist culture tells us is that our past mistakes disqualify us from a beautiful future. This story screams the opposite. It tells us that our acknowledged brokenness is the very crack that lets the light in. It is the source of our deepest compassion, our most authentic connections, and our most extravagant love. Your story, all of it, is worthy of being brought into the room.